Hi and welcome back to Live and Breathe Horses, and we're going on with this fabulous collection of stories collected by Margaret Dorrance and John St. Ryan about the amazing horseman Tom Dorrance, which is in fact of course called More Than a Horseman. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. I hope you'll go out and buy it. But anyway, to share the stories is a real honour. And, you know, if something in one of the stories helps someone with their horse somewhere and they learn something and then can help more horses, then it's got to be a good thing. So today's story is from Joyce Mattos. Each experience with Tom generated multi-layered learning experiences, which continue to unfold in a deeper understanding of the horse and the meaning of horsemanship as I continued to work with horses. For instance, with one of the early colts he helped me with, Tom decided I should practice getting on and off from the right side of the horse. He suggested this after we had practiced mounting from the left side in a smooth and balanced way, lifting my rein hand to support the colt in standing still if he thought he needed to move while I got on, and giving the colt confidence in me. When Tom asked me to mount from the right, I assumed that we were still helping the horse with his need to feel confident, to balance and accept movement on the right side as well as on the left, and remain still while I mounted. So at this point, I was focused entirely on what Tom saw that the horse needed to learn. When I tried to mount from the right, I discovered that Tom was also working with what I needed to learn. I couldn't even begin to coordinate mounting from the right. I had to stop, go over to the left side, and carefully observe each move I made in mounting in order to consciously direct my movements when I went back to mounting on the right side. Tom chuckled with his usual sense of humour and noted that people have the same one-sidedness that we notice in our horses. He said not to be impatient with myself for my inability to use my offside as well as my handier side, but just to realise that in a like way, it takes a little help for the horse to learn to use both sides equally well, and I might have to be a little patient while he learns. I've watched a lot of people struggle with horses that can't stand while the rider mounts, and I'm grateful for Tom's help that's enabled me to have horses that wait for me. However, the greater lesson with even wider applications has turned out to be the understanding of the horse's need for experiences that help them to learn to use both sides equally well, and to understand the part that my own one-sidedness might play in the horse's difficulties. Being aware and patient on this score with both of us has yielded great returns. Another memorable series of lessons with Tom involved starting a colt who was sensitive and kind, but had significant scared spots when I bought him as a 2-year-old. I noticed that when I entered the stall, when he was loose, he was a little defensive, wanting to turn his tail to me and having trouble even looking at me. When I put him in a 60-foot round pen, before I'd even entered with the flag, he was panicked and ran 9-0 around the pen, trying not to see me. After some work with the colt from the round pen fence, while the colt was on a fairly long halter rope and under Tom's careful supervision, we got the horse gentled enough to the flag that he could change sides without hitting the end of the rope, and was letting down significantly. At this point, Tom suggested putting the horse in my roping arena and riding in on another quiet gelding that lived in the same field as the colt. The colt was already pretty comfortable with him. Then, Tom asked me to practice getting next to the colt and petting him a lot from the older horse's back. then riding off and coming back to him repeatedly so that he would begin to trust me when approaching him. It was significant that I had no halter, nothing to help me restrain the colt, but I had to rely on my ability to read the colt's readiness to accept my approach and make that approach fit the colt, or I wouldn't be able to get up to him. In other words, it put me at the mercy of my own awareness of the colt's feelings and my ability to coordinate my and my gelding's movements in a way that fit the colt. As always, there were so many layers of understanding involved in Tom's lessons that applied to me as much as to the horse that we were working with. And these are the greater benefits of the lessons. Tom also mentioned about this time that if the colt didn't come through pretty well on his part, I probably didn't need him. This was Tom's way of telling me that as nice as the colt was in many ways, kind and very athletic, we were dealing with part of the very core of his being that we had to connect with if the horse and I would ever be able to establish a partnership that would work. Eventually, the colt became steady and trusting of our approach and was able to stand and enjoy the contact that we made. At this point, we began working from horseback with the flag in the big arena. At first, with me just riding the other horse with the flag lowered by my left side as I rode up with the colt on our right side. Then with the flag resting back over my shoulder and eventually rubbing the colt with it, and finally using it to move him. This process didn't take place in a few sessions, but over many sessions and quite a few days. It was fascinating to feel the growing confidence that the colt experienced and what a difference it made in everything about him. After working through standing while a saddle pad was thrown on his back, when this colt was ready to saddle, Tom invited me to bring him to his and Margaret's place. Tom knew it might take some backup to get it done. So Tom directed and Margaret and I did the dirty work. Tom suggested that I saddle from the fence while Margaret held the end of the lead rope because he anticipated that the colt might get pretty active. Margaret suggested that she too might like to be on the fence with the lead for the same reason. Tom was right, as always, and then some. As soon as the cinch was in place, Tom told us to remove the halter. The colt took off, bucking for the sky, and didn't quit for quite some time. After his usual feigned lament that I was missing so much by not being on the colt at that moment, Tom commented that it had been quite a long time since he had seen a horse buck that high, wide and handsome. When I got home and was ready to try sitting on the colt, Tom, who always emphasised safety first, said I might try throwing a leg over the colt while keeping the other leg on the fence, in case. On second thoughts, he said, be sure I was in a small pen, not the 60-foot round pen, in case. He said I could even let the colt step ahead a few feet while I was in this position. So I did this in the pen that was about 12 foot by 8 foot, with my left foot on the fence and holding the lead rope with the top rail in my left hand and with my right leg over the colt. He began to step ahead, but soon he had to step away from the fence because we were close to the corner. I began to do the splits because I couldn't get my right leg off him fast enough, and eventually was forced to let my left leg come off the fence and sort of just sag to the ground, half on and half off. The colt just stood there as if to say, well, if this is the kind of rider she is, I guess I'll just have to go with it. When I called Tom to laugh with him about the experience, he said he thought the colt had passed the test and was ready to ride. As they say, the rest is history. That colt had been a joy for the last 10 years I've ridden him. He's a horse who feels what I'm thinking and fills in for me in the many places where I need help, from lead changes to turning around and sliding and working with cattle. The kindness that was always there beneath that scared spot is at the surface now that he's confident with me. I'm so confident in him that even my young granddaughters ride and enjoy him in the arena, on the trail, and gathering cattle. With Tom's help, this colt has been a tremendous lesson horse for me. I've learned a little more about that fascinating part of the horse that Tom calls his spirit, the part that directs everything the horse is and does, and the part that we humans must understand and connect with in order to partner with the horse so that riding them gets closer to becoming the ideal of a mind working with a mind. Fabulous. So thank you for joining me today. I'm in my tiny house and it's blowing a hooly storm out there. It's rain, like almost sleet, and it's wild. So I'm so grateful to have my cozy little tiny house, and I hope the noise of the storm isn't too disturbing. Thank you for being here and look forward to see you next time.